Hello once again, everybody. Alongside Steve Zerdelian and Chris Granozio, I'm Tim McCaffrey, and you're listening to D2EastHoops.org's 2017-2018 season preview of the Northeast 10 Conference. It's men's basketball time, Chris, and of the three teams in the NE10 Northeast Division gaining the most notoriety, it's Merrimack.
Yeah, Merrimack is getting a lot of preseason recognition, and deservingly so. They had a very, very good season last year, knocked off the number one seed Lemoyne in the regional, and that formidable 2-3 zone and the athletic scoring guards led by Juvaris Hayes, the Rookie of the Year, is what puts Merrimack at the head of the list most likely. Joey Gallo in his second season has done a terrific job. They also bring back some big-time players in Ryan Bolter, Troy McLaughlin, and Jaleel Lord.
Yeah, Merrimack had an excellent year last season under Joey Gallo. I like the way they play. They have a nice up-tempo style. Merrimack has always been known for outstanding guard play, and they've got that again. Hayes, as a freshman, led the country in assists. So we look for this team to be among the regional elite. The question here is, can they take that step in the NE10 and actually win the Northeast 10 championship? It's been a while since the Warriors have done that.
Yeah, 2000 was the last time under Bert Hamill. The one thing that must be developed is an inside presence, as their one really notable loss, Anthony Berry, will be a hard man to fill the shoes.
In my judgment, Chris, there was no better season coached in Keith Dixon's 32-year career than the one he had last season under much turmoil. An NCAA tournament bid, the NE10 champs, a little more stability for the Hawks this season.
Yeah, and again, they're trying to break free from that dubious decision to try to go Division III, and thankfully that's been averted. Much like their crosstown rivals, the Southern New Hampshire Penman, who we'll get to in a second, they have a very, very strong guard attack led by Tim Gears, also Cody Ball and Taylor Fortin, but the question marks are in the front court. Will the newcomers, such as Chris Paul, the Don Bosco Prep 6'6 freshman, will they be able to kind of help that team stay at that level? That is a big question mark.
I'm a big fan of Gears and Ball. I think this is among the best backcourt pairs in the region. Yes, they can shoot their team out of games, but they're big physical guards, and they can contribute in the paint as well, rebounding-wise and setting the tempo. So I think Keith Dixon is more than happy just giving them the reins and letting them run the show on the floor. They're capable of doing a great job.
Southern New Hampshire, the crosstown rival for St. A's, Chris, as you mentioned, a 21-9 season last year. The NE10 tourney runner-ups a season ago. Garnered an NCAA tournament bid, and Stan Spiro in his 33rd season is optimistic on this year's club.
Yeah, he brings back a lot of guards as well. Chris Walters, Dimitri Flores, who will shift to the point guard position this year, and also Day-Day Andrews, who's an electrifying player to watch. Charlie Russo, a competitive three-point shooter. He should step into the starting five in most games. They lose the player of the year in the league in Devin Gilligan. That's a big loss up front. Also, they lose their quarterback in Adrian Oliveira, but this is a team that could still be very, very good, especially if the big man improve.
Well, obviously, they've got great backcourt play as well, same as St. Anselm across town. I don't think that their interior play is going to carry them, but if they can just stay reasonably confident on the glass and defensively in the post, the perimeter players can really carry this team to another 21 season and potentially postseason success.
Seems like just yesterday, David Chadbourne was in his first season at Franklin Pierce, Chris, and now in his 19th year, the veteran head coach led his team to a 15-13 record, but do the losses outweigh the newcomers this season?
Well, it's a good question, and you say 19 years, but he was there for several years, I think 8 others as the women's head coach. He's been at Franklin Pierce for quite a while and has done a great job in both programs. A new identity is needed for this team because their go-to guy, the face of the franchise, so to speak, Dante Giddens, is gone, and they'll have to do something. They also lose Matt Banton, a very good outside shooter. So they do bring back Mike McDevitt, a big man in the middle who has a good touch, Jordan Lackey, Asante Santaford. Oladoyin Fatajatimi was really good last year in a limited role. Also, Falu Sek, they're expecting on them those two guys to pick it up a little bit. I think Franklin Pierce could be a team that could be very sneaky and get into that playoff mix.
The reason they were 15-13 last year, though, Chris, was their defense really showed some slippage. They allowed 80 points a game, a little bit more than that. That's got to get better, especially to balance out the loss of a player like Giddens, who did so much for this team all over the floor.
Doesn't seem like an NE10 preseason preview when we're talking about Bentley this late in the podcast. A 14-13 year season last year. Jay Lawson in his 27th season. Do you buy? Do you sell? on Bentley this year, Chris?
I'm a buyer. I really believe in Jay Lawson as a coach and his motion offense. And when things are going well and he's got balanced scoring and everybody's contributing, they're a team that's just very hard to beat, especially at home. Ryan Richmond last year emerged as a superstar, one of the best scorers in the program's history for one season. But the vintage Bentley teams normally rely on balance. So I don't know if other guys having to get involved will be the formula for success. Steve, you get to watch them quite a bit announcing their games. What do you think?
Oh, Richmond's great to watch. Injuries have been a problem for this team over the last few years. Guys like Zach Gilpin need to stay healthy. He was off to a very good start last year. Kyle Bouchard also got off to a good start. Brandon Wheeler provides a nice bit of stability for this team across the board. There's a lot of newcomers there, some of whom will have to contribute. We'll have to see how that goes as the season develops. But I think Bentley can have a little more depth this year than last year, and when you have a primary scorer like Richmond to close out games and to score when you need to score, I think that'll help them get better this season.
2 years ago, Chris Krause became the first regional player, assistant coach, and head coach to make the Elite Eight with the same team. His Stonehill Skyhawks finished 15-12 last year. Is it more Elite Eight team this year or more middle of the pack?
Well, they could certainly keep trending upward as they only lose one senior in Ryan Logan. He's a big loss, but most of that prolific offense, which shot a league-best 41% from three-point range, is back. Guys like Will Moriton and Dan Largy, a couple of freshmen last year that could really stroke it. Also, KJ Lee, a good guard. Isaiah Best, Joel Baroa is back. Brandon Twitty. They have a lot of depth coming back, and that press and run style. I don't know if Krause is going to continue it this year, but they're a good team to watch, and I think they could be very, very good. Defense question.
There's a lot of really good raw material with Stonehill. Most of it is clustered in the lower classes, freshman and sophomore class. So we might be a year premature in saying that they're going to be a 20-win team, but this is a team that can win any game they play because they do possess length and shooters.
The Assumption Greyhounds were 7-21 a year ago. Michael Harding built a pretty good program up at St. Mike's, trying to do the same at Assumption.
Yeah, it's been a little slow going. He's trying to get his players in there. Damian Rance, Branislav Vujadinovic, and Patrick Fleming are the three key returners. They do bring in a notable newcomer, Joe Sullivan, who will probably start a 6'5 transfer from the JUCO ranks. But they lose Marcus Murray, Carl Ziegler, Declan Sukup, and Justin Tuxon, who's transferred to Clayton State. Young nucleus, but toughness and rebounding still need to be stressed for this team to move up.
Probably too many losses here to negotiate a very difficult division and make a real playoff run. I think they'll be okay, but they're just not going to be able to close out too many games.
One of the two Purple Knights in the region, it's St. Mike's. Josh Meyer, hard to believe he's already in his fifth season, Chris, and Purple Knights holding up the rest of the NE10 for a couple of years now.
Big loss for them last year in Matt Bonds, who is the guy that really was one of the best players in program history. Over 1,500 points, over 1,000 rebounds. Hard to imagine success without him. They didn't have a whole lot with him, but they have a couple of returners that are going to be important for them. Levi Holmes III, Derek Cheatham, also Winston Jones II. But again, a team with a lot of holes to fill and a lot of youth expected to play key roles.
Me personally, I'm going to miss watching Matt Barnes play. His motor was awesome. That young man could play basketball. His loss is huge for St. Michael's, and I think hitting the reset button for Josh Meyer is going to be necessary, even though there's some ability there. And the key here is looking forward to trying to build the base moving forward.
Let's transition now to the Northeast 10 Southwest Division, where the class of the division last season was the Lemoyne Dolphins, getting an NCAA tournament #1 seed, but they didn't win an NCAA tournament game, and they didn't win their league tournament, bowing out in the semifinals. Will that change this season for the Dolphins?
Well, possibly. That's the expectation. This is a team that was a little ahead of schedule last year, and Patrick Beeline's done a very good job at putting together a roster that's got 9 seniors this year, including a returning player in Taekwon Roland, who really is going to be the go-to guy for this team after a year and a half of being away from the program. And also O'Shea Gary returns after sitting out his first year with Lemoyne last year with an injury. Russell Sankster, the Defensive Player of the Year, highlights the returning players from last year's club. Also the big men of Isaiah Eisendorf, Dan Kegler. Robert Jones III, a big transfer from Division I Idaho State, is in the mix. This is a club that really has high expectations, and they're got a little swagger to them this year too.
I love the fact that Patrick Beilein is challenging this team with the toughest schedule in the nation. That will undoubtedly help them down the line. This is a team that is very motivated, and they're not going to shy away from that kind of a challenge.
All their non-league games are on the road, 3 of them against nationally ranked teams, including 2 recent national champions and last year's national runner-up.
New Haven Chargers under Ted Holtailing surprised some teams last season. They may sneak up at some teams this year as well. They are 15-14 a year ago, but we think they might be better than that this year.
I think they're the dark horse team in the league and possibly in the region. Their entire roster returns, and valuable experience was gained last year. I love guys like Kesley Felazor up front. Roy Kane Jr. is a guy to watch. Elijah Bailey, Michael Burke, and Danny Upchurch provide the senior leadership. This is an intense defense and a great balanced two-guard offense. I think this is a team to watch.
The Chargers aren't a flashy kind of a team. They're not going to knock your socks off with big numbers or huge wins, but what they'll do is they'll consistently pick up victories. The experience and the depth will come in handy here. So it's not a stretch to say we're going to add 4, 5, 6 wins to last year's club, get to the 20-win mark, and likely, I think, challenge for second in the division.
It was a Sweet 16 appearance last season for Brian Bury's club. The St. Rose Golden Knights finished 26-8, but a lot of changes in Golden Knightville.
Yeah, they lose 3 starters, and among them a couple of lefties who are fantastic. Tyler Sayre, Chris Dorgler, also Damon Coleman, the point guard, is gone. But they do bring back Michael Ryan Boyd, who will join mid-season. Also Julian Lipinski, Jack Jones, Shane Harity, who I really like filling in at point guard now, or taking over the reins at point guard. Also Adam Anderson, a 6'4 freshman that's going to step into the starting lineup most likely. He's out of nearby Saratoga Springs. This is a club that still is going to be in the mix, even though Brian Bury is going to be sitting out possibly part of the season due to a health-related issue, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Mike Perno right now at the helm.
St. Rose will be a solid team, but it's going to take them a while to get there. There's too much upheaval for them to jump into the season both feet first and be the kind of team they were last year. I think by the end of the season, they'll figure out who they are, but it's going to take a while to get there.
For Dave Dukes, the Delphi Panther Club, an 18-12 season was a bit of a disappointment considering what they returned. For them to take the next step, they probably need to win almost all of their out-of-conference games, considering they've struggled in the league the last couple of years.
But this is a team I think, though, could really, really make a move in the league this year. They bring back a lot of firepower. The three-point shooting last year was tremendous. They recorded a region-high 316 three-pointers and a region-high 850 attempts. They also led the league in shooting at over 50%. I really like who they bring back in Michael Coffey, Jack Laffey, Austin Beach, Connor McGinnis, and coming back after missing last year with injury, Tavon Ginyard is really a good player. Terrell Martin Garcia, a notable 6'6 senior transfer from Albany of Division I. He can really stroke it, and that takes the place of Manny Suarez, who left a year early to transfer to Creighton. He was another big who could shoot it.
Yeah, as long as the Delphi can shoot that same rate or close to it, I think they'll be in the mix as well.
Since Mike Donnelly has left the Owls of Southern Connecticut State, it's been a slow trip downhill for Scott Burrell in his third season. An 18-13 club a year ago, Chris, but they lost a ton of talent.
Yeah, Michael Mallory, the key loss right there. The NE10's all-time leading scorer, a dynamic player to watch. Austin Carter, a very good player, especially on the defensive end. Big shoes left to fill. Depth might be a question. They do bring back some good pieces in Jerry Luckett Jr. up front, Isaiah McLeod and Joey Wallace on the perimeter. Scott Burrell in his third season will have to bring in some newcomers like Walter King, a junior guard who transferred from NYIT. Also Luke Beasley, a JUCO transfer who they're expecting big things from.
The 2 biggest losses in the Northeast 10 in terms of their relevance to the team, Matt Bonds at St. Michael's and Michael Mallory at Southern Connecticut. I think this is going to be a very difficult loss for them to overcome, even though there's still talent on the roster.
In Andy Burkholder's first year at the helm of AIC, the Yellow Jackets were the number 1 seed at season's end in the NCAA Tournament East Region. But 11-17 season a year ago, Chris, has ended up a lot of question marks at AIC.
Well, they lose quite a bit, especially Javon Pitts-Young, Jawan Moody, and Bruce Spruill, but they do bring back a couple of good pieces in Talib Swan and Zakiah Owens. It's going to be up to the newcomers again for Andy Burkholder's club. Zion Golding is one of the players they're really looking up to, a 6'4 freshman. Also Robert Durant and Adonis Williams. But it's all going to be how the new faces blend in with the returning players and how well they can get that chemistry and how quickly.
And Chris, the pace setters holding up the rest of the NE10 Southwest Division. What can you say about pace?
Well, right now, the big question marks all the way around for them. They do bring in a lot of newcomers, including some D1 transfers, Dana Razor and Kevin Seymour. They lose a lot. Ryan Peterson left, transferred to Division II Lynn, Austin Mofananya, Christian White, Victor Jacino, Mike DeMello transferred to Concordia, Brian Rivers. So it's a real overhaul for Matt Healing. We'll see if they can make some strides with the new faces.
And that wraps up the Northeast 10 Men's Basketball 2017-2018 season preview. Our thanks to Don Familo, who produces the program, and alongside Steve Zerdelian and Chris Granozio, Tim McCaffrey, thanking you for listening, and we hope you tune into more podcasts right here on D2EastHoops.org.